Sometimes life hits you so hard that you start to believe the pain was created just to break you. You look at the mirror and you don't even recognize the person staring back. You feel older, heavier, tired in places no one sees. And the world tells you to be strong, but it never tells you how. It never explains why you had to go through things that almost destroyed you. And in those dark moments, when you're sitting alone with all the noise inside your head, it's easy to think life has turned against you. But the truth is far more complicated. Pain doesn't come to ruin you. It comes to rebuild parts of you that comfort never touches. Maybe no one ever told you this, but the things that hurt the most often shape the strongest parts of your character. Not because suffering is noble, but because suffering strips away everything unnecessary. It exposes who you really are. It shows you what matters and what never did. People think strength comes from winning, but real strength is built in moments you thought you wouldn't survive. When you were crying quietly late at night so no one would hear. When you woke up the next morning pretending everything was fine. When you carried responsibilities on shoulders already breaking. You didn't see it then, but every time life hit you, something inside learned how to stand back up. You probably had days when nothing made sense. When you begged for answers and got silence. When you tried your best and still watched everything fall apart. Maybe someone you trusted broke you in ways they'll never understand. Maybe you gave your whole heart to people who didn't know what to do with it. Maybe you tried to hold your life together while it kept slipping through your fingers. These things don't just cut, they carve. And those carvings change you. They deepen you. They create a version of you who sees things others don't. A version who feels everything a little too deeply, but also understands life a little too clearly. People think pain makes you weak, but that's only because they've never had to rebuild themselves from nothing. They don't know the kind of strength it takes to walk through fire and come out quieter but sharper. They don't know how much courage it takes to keep going when your heart feels like it is splitting open. They don't know how many nights you spent convincing yourself not to give up. They don't know how many times you held yourself together because no one else could. Weakness doesn't survive that. Only strength does, but no one ever sees that part. They see you now, not the path you crawled through. They see the composure, not the storms inside. They see the calm, not the chaos you fought through. They see the way you don't react the way you used to, and they think you've hardened. But the truth is, you've learned. You've learned who deserves access to your energy. You've learned when to speak and when to walk away. You've learned that you don't owe anyone you're suffering just to make them comfortable. Pain taught you that. Not kindness, not comfort. Pain. And maybe that's why life allowed certain people to leave you. Maybe that's why certain doors closed, no matter how much you knocked. Maybe that's why plans you believed in fell apart right when you needed them most. Life wasn't punishing you. It was redirecting you. You thought you were losing everything, but you were being pushed towards something else. Something that required a stronger, wiser version of you. A version that couldn't exist without the heartbreak, the disappointment, the betrayal, the nights you felt like collapsing. Your new path needed a version of you the old path couldn't create. Think about it. If your life had gone exactly the way you wanted, you never would have learned resilience. You never would have discovered yourself. You never would have let go of the people who were draining you. You never would have questioned the choices that kept you small. You never would have realized how much strength was hiding inside you. Pain didn't take those things away from you. It revealed them. Some days it still hurts. Of course it does. Healing isn't a clean process. Some memories don't fade the AC. Some losses never fully stop echoing. But even that doesn't mean the pain was meant to destroy you. It means you're human. It means you cared deeply. It means your heart was brave enough to love, trust, try, and hope. And that's not weakness. That's courage disguised as vulnerability. You may not realize it, but the fire you walked through didn't burn you down. It burned away the illusions. It burned away the lies you told yourself. It burned away the parts of you that were willing to settle for less than you deserved. That destruction wasn't the end. It was the clearing. Now, there's space for the person you're becoming. Right now, you're stronger than you've ever been, even if you don't feel like it. Right now, you're standing on the edge of a version of yourself you haven't met yet. Right now, you are carrying scars that prove you didn't surrender. You endured. You adapted. You grew roots in places you once wanted to escape. And even the days you thought you broke beyond repair, you were transforming quietly into someone you needed to become. Life doesn't always give you what you want, but it always gives you what you need to grow. The pain that built you didn't come to crush you. It came to shape you. Every moment that hurt you forced you to rise above the version of yourself that didn't know better. And when you look back one day, you will realize the truth you can see fully right now. That pain was never your enemy. It was your turning point. It was your awakening. It was the force that pushed you into the person who refuses to be destroyed. There comes a point when you stop asking why everything happened the way it did, and you start realizing that some things were never meant to stay. Not every person who walked into your life was meant to walk beside you forever. Some were there to teach you patience. Some came to show you what love shouldn't feel like. Some appeared to break you open just enough for you to see the truth you kept ignoring. And some left so you could learn how to stand on your own without begging anyone to choose you. That's the part people don't understand. Growth rarely happens in comfort. Most of the time, it comes from losing something you thought you couldn't live without. Maybe you've been through things most people will never hear about. Maybe you've cried quietly in places where no one would ever imagine you breaking. Maybe you've had moments where you couldn't explain why your chest felt so heavy or why your mind wouldn't stop racing. You probably learned to wipe your tears before stepping out into the world, because everyone expects you to be strong. They don't know about the silent battles you fight every day. They don't know the courage it takes just to get out of bed on certain mornings. They don't know that you're still trying, even when you feel worn out from always being the one who keeps everything together. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still standing, still carrying pain that would have crushed someone else. You don't give yourself enough credit for that. You think surviving is just survival, but it's more than that. You didn't break, even when life gave you every reason to. You didn't turn cold, even though you had every reason to shut down. You didn't give up on yourself, even on the days it felt like the easiest option. That says something about you, something powerful. It's strange how pain slowly changes you without asking for permission. At first, it weakens you. Then, it confuses you. Then it forces you to look at yourself in ways you never had to before. You start questioning your choices. You start noticing the patterns you kept repeating. You start realizing how often you accepted less than you deserved just to feel wanted. That's when the shift begins. That's when pain stops being something that happened to you and becomes something working for you. Because once you become aware, you don't go back. Awareness is the first form of strength. Healing is the second. You probably learned the hard way that people treat you based on what you allow. You learned that love without respect is just attachment. You learned that loyalty without honesty is just fear of losing someone. You learned that giving everything to people who give little in return only empties you. And you learned that your peace is not something you can sacrifice to keep others comfortable. These lessons hurt, but they shape you. Suddenly, you don't chase approval the way you once did. You don't tolerate the same disrespect. You don't stay where your soul feels smaller. Pain taught you to leave places you outgrew long before you realized you were shrinking. There are some moments in healing when you look back at who you used to be and you almost don't recognize yourself. Not in a bad way, but in a surprising, quiet, powerful way. You see how many times you stayed silent when you should have spoken up. You see how often you carried people emotionally while breaking internally. You see how you gave your best to situations that were never meant to last. And you don't hate your old self for that. You feel compassion for them. They were doing the best they could with what they knew at the time. But now, you know better. Life has a way of creating a stronger version of you through the same experiences that once left you in pieces. And the strength you gain doesn't show up loudly. It appears in small moments, when you stay calm instead of reacting, when you walk away instead of forcing something that isn't meant for you. When you choose yourself, even though it scares you, when you protect your heart without building a wall around it, when you give love without losing yourself in the process. These are the quiet victories people don't notice, but they are the ones that change your entire life. Pain also teaches you how to appreciate things you once overlooked. Peace becomes valuable. Silence becomes comforting. Real conversations feel different. People with consistent energy stand out. Stability becomes more attractive than excitement, and you start choosing the kind of life that doesn't drain you. You start building days that don't feel heavy. You start seeing yourself as someone worth taking care of, not someone who needs to earn that right. Maybe the most surprising part of healing is realizing you're becoming someone you needed long ago. Someone who sets boundaries without guilt. Someone who doesn't settle for temporary attention. Someone who doesn't beg for closure. Someone who knows their worth without needing anyone to confirm it. Someone who looks at their scars and doesn't feel ashamed, but grateful. Because those scars hold stories of who you've become. You might still have days where the past whispers in your ear, trying to pull you backwards. That's normal. Healing doesn't erase memory. But now you have something you didn't have before: perspective. You can look at old wounds without reopening them. You can feel the pain without letting it control you. You can acknowledge what hurt you without living in that place anymore. That's growth. Quiet, powerful, undeniable growth. The pain that built you wasn't meant to destroy you, but it was meant to wake you up. It was meant to break the version of you that couldn't see your own value. It was meant to remove the people who were never truly meant to stay. It was meant to push you into a life where you disappear in someone else's shadow. It was meant to teach you how to love yourself in ways you had never been taught. And maybe, just maybe, it was meant to guide you to a future where you finally understand that every moment of hurt was shaping a stronger, wiser, more grounded version of you.